How's it going, guys? And you guys caught it at the perfect time. The top of the first is going to end with a ground out. That is the club leading Chris Bryant grounding out with a 265. That is who is leading the club right now, a batting average of 265. His on base plus is obviously over 1,000. Uh, next highest is going to be Wilson Contreras at 800, something like that. So we're definitely struggling with the bats, and you guys caught it at a commercial break. But to recap, it was a 2-pitch at bat to Ian Happ, who lined out to left. It was a 8-pitch, 7, maybe even down to 6 for Wilson Contreras, who worked it a little bit, fouled off a couple pitches, ended up, I think, grounded out to first. Rizzo 4-pitch walked, and then we had a Rizzo stolen base. Woodruff simply did not look back at Rizzo because he knew he's not the type of guy to steal a base. Rizzo took the opportunity. Catcher didn't even throw down. And then Brian grounds out to third in the inning. I know it's early, and I know there's a lot of time for the bats to come back, but I can't be saying, oh, we got time for the bats to come back into June. Into July, we're still talking about, oh, the bats can come back. The bats can come back. If we don't pick up right now, I think we're going to be pretty far behind. Doesn't the entire Cubs offense have a lower WAR than Craig Kimbrell has? That's kind of an insane stat if you think about it. A closing pitcher has done more for wins than an entire Cubs offense has. There we go. Now I can get you guys back now that we have commercials have ended. Alec Mills is getting the start. Last time Mills started in Milwaukee, he threw a no-hitter. I guess I could be one of those lame guys and tell you that Victor Carantini has caught the last 2 no-hitters, and he's done it for 2 separate teams, which is the first time anyone has ever done that. But I'm pretty sure you've heard that hundreds of times at this point. So I'm going to save you the trouble and act like I didn't just say it. I think Mills is good. I think I'm not crazy about a 6-starter rotation. Today should have been Hendricks' day, technically. Because Alizé pitched yesterday. Alizé was good up until the 6th. Left a couple on base. And then who came in after that? It was... the most popular man with a beard on the Cubs staff. I wonder what his ERA is. Andrew Chafin is who we're talking about. I should have clarified that name. Andrew Chafin got credited with the loss yesterday. He's pitched 3 innings. Yeah, I saw that. Oh, I was assuming that they could. That makes a lot more sense. All right, that's 2 quick outs for Mills right there. 5 pitches, ground ball to Javi, puts away another. If we could work first inning quick. I'm not gonna say it. I know how early it is. I know that we're 25 outs away, but he's done it before, so why can't we start talking about it now? How early can we talk about the no-hitter? Can we say a 3-up, 3-down first inning, Alec Mills? What's actually I don't know if he's pitched since the opening series, the first weekend of of the season, Alec Mills out of the bullpen had a no-hit inning. And prior to throwing his no-hitter, he ended with a no-hit inning as in his last appearance. So it was Alec Mills threw 11 straight no-hit innings against the Milwaukee Brewers. Has he come out since and faced the Brewers out of the bullpen since I read that statistic? I don't know. But I'm sure that's going to be a pretty interesting story if it's true. Let's see if he can get 12 with this at-bat right here. And Rizzo's going to scoop that. I think that's going to end the inning. I think Anthony Rizzo has to have the most assisted outs by a first baseman in MLB history. I just watched a ground ball come to him. I'm sure you guys did too. A ground ball came to him. He was maybe 3 steps away from the bag. He had Alec Mills run all the way from the mound, all the way to first base to give him a toss. The toss was shorter than the distance it would have taken Rizzo just to walk there. Unbelievable. If anyone could pull up that statistic and send it our way, if they can find out who has the most assisted putouts by a first baseman, send it our way. I think that would be one of the most important FanCast stats. That would go in the FanCast Stats Hall of Fame. I'll tell you that. I don't know if I can make those calls, but I will tell you that it is definitely one of the more crazy statistics you'll hear. That and Alec Mills now has 12 straight no-hit innings against the Milwaukee Brewers. I think I froze on the main screen. There we go. We're back. Hyundai car commercial. Did I freeze again on the main screen? It's always hard to tell if the freezing is on my end or if it's on Twitter's end, or if it's on OBS's end. Do you guys miss Periscope? They're closing down, aren't they? I believe I read that Periscope is closing down. All right, Cubs back at the bat. So I work at Wrigley Field, and one of the things that the workers like to pay very close attention to is is how long innings take, because we're notorious at keeping track of when we're actually allowed to leave. And because of that, I would say that most games are running 3 hours. I would say that's about average with the MLB. I know they're trying to shorten up games, and I can't disagree with that. Baseball is a very complex sport. Albert Pujols is the leader with putouts. I'm curious, active leader. I'm curious if those are assisted or unassisted. If we could find out if it's a 3U or if it's a 3-1 putout. Yeah, if we could find that statistic anywhere. I'm sure it's out there. Actually, I don't know. It's one of those weird baseball stats. I'm looking for putout assists and unassisted putouts. All right. I know Jock is in the game because he needs to get hot, but Woodruff is incredible against lefties. And Jock Peterson is struggling. The last thing you want to do is throw Jock Peterson, a guy who's struggling, up against one of the most dominant pitchers against lefties. I think. What's the alternative there? You put Brian in left, bring Bodie the third, and let Sogard play second like he is. That's not a terrible decision if Ross were to do it, but I don't know if David Ross will put Chris Bryant in the outfield this season. I know that's something Joe Madden loved. I know that Joe Madden essentially wanted to convert Chris Bryant to a left fielder full time, but I think Chris Bryant has a pretty good glove in that hot spot. And that's not something you find everywhere in the league, is a defensive third baseman who also is having over 1,000 OPS. But on a day like today, I really don't understand Jock Peterson's position in the lineup. I know he's had Marcinick play some center field over half this year. And I know today, like, Sogard is starting over Bodie. But other than that, I don't think he's had any variety in the lineup. I don't think we've seen, Brian in left or Hayward in center, and you bring in. We had the backup catcher, and not PJ Higgins. Walters, yeah, Tony Walters was in one game. That was that night to day doubleheader, or not doubleheader, but back to back, night to day. As Baez grounds out to short for 2 outs in the second. So other than that, that's three varieties as part of the starting lineup compared to what we see traditional. And here comes Jason Hayward, another lefty, going up against Brandon Woodruff. Matt Duffy went down on the COVID list today. And they brought up Vargas instead of Nico Horner. Obviously, that's similar to what they did with Brian in his rookie year. They waited the 10 games so Bryant wouldn't be in a contract year. They're currently doing that with Horner. So that's why they went Vargas to replace Duffy. I'm curious if today Matt Duffy would have been in the starting lineup over Anthony Rizzo simply because of Brandon Woodruff again. We just faced Freddie Peralta too, and I wonder who's going for Milwaukee tomorrow. Wow, Hayward grounds out to second. I have never seen that in my life. I've never seen Jason Hayward ground out to second base ever before. I bet he won't do that again this game. That's how rare it is for Jason Hayward to ground out to second base. Anyone who's watched more than one Cubs game in their life knows exactly my complaints with that. It's not a bad piece of hitting when you have someone on first and you can hit behind them and move them over. It's a bad piece of hitting when no one's on and you're still doing that. We've had one man on base today, and that was Anthony Rizzo's 4-pitch walk. I guess I shouldn't complain too many times. They say second and third time through the order is when you really get a gist of how the lineup's going to go against a starter. So hopefully we get the bats going. Let me see. I'm trying to pull up the MLB website and see how many hits we have had. Yeah, go for it.
But there is some good. Scientists are actively trying to understand how the water bears are able to be so resilient for a bunch of great reasons. And I'll turn here to Thomas Boothby from TED Ed. Like, if you ever see on YouTube, like TED Talks, their education platform. So he said that scientists are trying to understand how water bears stabilize their biological molecules under extreme conditions because they believe that we may be able to apply that knowledge to help us stabilize vaccines or develop stress tolerant crops to cope with climate change, which I think is super cool. Like the fact that we might be able to use the information that we gain from these animals to help protect humanity from the effects of climate change on our food sources and potentially more, to be honest with you, viruses and bacteria that could potentially um, and probably more than likely will affect our day-to-day life. The fact that we could use information that we gain from studying these micro animals to protect us from some of that stuff is really, really cool. He goes on to say they might also give us clues as to the environmental limits of biological life and how to protect astronauts, in addition to helping us answer the question of whether or not life can be supported on planets less hospitable than our own. I mean, come on, when has that been more relevant than right now? We have a rover on Mars right now. Elon Musk is talking about wanting to colonize Mars right now. So once again, this could be wildly helpful to understand that question of how are they able to do this.
And we're back. And there's already one out in the bottom of the second. 2 pitches for Mills to retire. I was going to say Jackie Bradley Jr., but now Jackie Bradley Jr.'s up to bat. I should have studied the lineup a little bit more for Milwaukee. Who is batting behind Bradley Jr. today? It is Garcia. No Yelich today. Christian Yelich and Bradley Jr. just got hit by a pitch, so that's the Brewers' first base runner, and there goes the perfect game. I hate to say it this early, but perfect game's over in the second. Manny Pena. I remember, I think it was Pena, and I think it was 2 years ago when we were still in the stadium and I was working at the game. Pena had yet to get a home run, and we're like into June, July of the season. This is a critical at bat. This is, hey, we get Pena, we end the inning, we're still up 3 runs, and we get to grab bats, and then we're 3 outs away from winning. And Pena is having an awful season at this point. He's like batting 190. He has 0 home runs. He has like 12.5 RBIs. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, this should be an easy put out. If this guy gets any hit, we're going to lose this game. And then Manny Pena cracked one onto Waveland. And we ties the game. We don't even go into extras because the next inning, Milwaukee scores again, and we lost that game like 4-3. And that is how I remember Manny Pena. Always sucks, but that was a good play by Baez. They couldn't turn 2, but they got the lead runner there. That was good field coverage by Javi Baez. I look down at my phone so I can keep up the stats. I have one of the better fielding percentage at the position. I know he has his errors. I know he airmailed one yesterday that was embarrassing. But I think Javi is defensively one of the better shortstops in the league. I know a lot of people with the eye test will say that. I'm trying to look at the actual cold hard statistics because that's what we like at Fangraphs TV when we can actually put a number to what we're saying. And that's a hard hit ball, and that's over the fence, and that's a 2-run shot, and there goes. Talking about first home runs of the season, there's Uris. Man. I hate the Brewers mascot, and I hate when he goes down the slide. I maybe it's because we play Milwaukee so much that I know it and I see it and I hate it even more. But it's got to be one of the worst things in sports. Can we get an outside perspective? Can we get like a AL West fan to come in here and be like, yeah, that's the worst thing I've ever seen? Two runs, two. This is what sucks with the Cubs right now, with these bats right now. 2 runs in any other year is not an unachievable number. 2 runs is something that we could easily cover in half an inning. Um, this season, how many games have we not had 2 runs? How many games have we 4 hits? Let me pull up. Now I got to look back at the schedule. Opening day lost 3-5. Then we put up 5 runs, 4 runs, 5 runs, and then didn't put up any. Then put up 2, 4, then 2, and then 1, and then 3. So the Cubs' run average has to be lower than league average. But is it bottom 75%? Is it bottom 5? Is it bottom 3 teams in the league in terms of run average? And that will end the inning, thankfully. Not before a little bit of damage is done and Alec Mills' no-hit streak against the Brewers is over. Sounds good.
The world needs more people with curious minds. People who aren't afraid to admit when they don't know something. We need to take the time to encourage more lifelong learners. At least that's my goal with this podcast. I think the future is at stake. But at the same time, I do believe that a more informed population can and will move humanity forward. All we have to do is keep learning.
We are back. We are on commercials right here. We just gave up 2. Bottom of the order type of stuff. There's no big bats. There's no Yelich in the lineup today for Milwaukee, so that's one less bat that we have to worry about. But like I was talking about earlier, right before we went to break right there, 2 runs seems to be a challenge for the Cubs to put. We have, I should have counted the number of games. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 games with 2 runs or less. And what, they're 4 and 6? So that's 10 games played. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, today's game 11. So 40% of the time, the Cubs can't even, 40% of the games, the Cubs can't even score 2 runs or can't score more than 2 runs. I think that's concerning. You can tell me, oh, it's 10 games into the season. Don't start worrying about how many runs the Cubs score a game once the bats start. Yeah, but the bats could start too late. How many times have we watched the division finish up within 1 or 2 games of each other? Didn't we just miss, I want to say what, 2 years ago, or maybe even last year, we were in a wild card spot instead of a division winning spot because of a game or 2. So these early ones, everyone likes to say that there's time to adjust, but they're still important to win. And I like David Ross. I wanted David Ross. The second he retired, I wanted David Ross to be manager. But I'm not exactly a fan of the way he's been answering some of these media questions. Oh, this will come, this and that will come. It's early in the season. Yeah, that's not fake news. It is early in the season. The biggest concern is, what happens when two of these winnable games, if we would have just scored one more run, is going to be the decision maker for the NL Central. I don't want the Cincinnati Reds to be the 7-3 Cincinnati Reds. I don't want them to be the team that we have to worry about. We already have to worry about the Brewers. We already have to worry about the Cardinals. We're going to have to start worrying about the Reds if they keep treating it like this. But with a negative 14 run differential, the biggest team that we have to worry about is the Chicago Cubs. And it's crazy to think that we have a negative 14 run differential and our pitchers are having a very good year. You know, our team ERA, if I could pull up a stat like that. I know our starters, Trevor Williams obviously had his, Zach Davies obviously had his bad day. But I think the Cubs pitching is fine. That's the least of my concerns when it comes to the Cubs. I think one of those data is beautiful statistics broke down like teams based on their runs allowed and their run average, and then there was obviously 4 quadrants created that was good or bad at scoring, good or bad at pitching. And the Cubs were one of 8 teams that were in a quadrant that was labeled good at pitching, bad at hitting. And I just keep that in the back of my mind when I'm talking about these pitching averages. We're doing just fine. I know Chafin got beat up. What was that? Yesterday, 2 days ago? I know he's supposed to be our strikeout guy out of the bullpen, has the highest whiff rate in the league right now. He's allowed to have bad days. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you can't score more than 2 runs, and 40% of the time that's true, you're trying to expect to win more than 40% of games. If anyone could find that statistic, this statistic I'm about to say, what teams in, I guess, the last 5 years have made the playoffs with a negative run differential? Anyone have a subscription to Baseball Reference and can just hook it up? And follow tip strike 3 for Eric Sogard, which will then bring up Alec Mills to hit. And I know there's always the whole pitchers aren't supposed to be hitters, bring in the DH. I like the NL's rule. Let the pitcher hit. They're athletes. They know how to play baseball. They've been playing it all their lives. They weren't pitchers all their lives. They used to hit. Seeing Alec Mills with a bat in his hand is just kind of weird to me. It just doesn't look natural. It just doesn't look like what baseball is supposed to look like. He's a career 2 for 18 hitter. That's all right. We actually were able to find that statistic. The 07 Diamondbacks had a negative, 24 run differential is what I heard. Is that the only team in modern era? And then we had the Giants in 97 with a -9. And then we can go back to 87 and 84, but I think that's stopping. We just got a pretty cool statistic for you guys. This is going to go in the Fancast TV Hall of Fame. The Minnesota Twins, what was that year again? 87. The 87 Twins had a negative 20 run differential and won the World Series. That's going to go in the Fancast TV Statistic Hall of Fame because that is absolutely wild to me. On the year, the team put up 20 less runs than they allowed. They beat the Cardinals with a 105, a plus 105 run differential. Was that the lead leaguer? Were the Cardinals the lead leaguer that year in run differential in 84? 87, my bad. The 87 Cardinals had a 104 run differential. If that was the league best and they lost the World Series to a team with a negative, even if it was a -8, but it wasn't, it was -20. And we're back to Hap. And he just got called straight. That was like a couple inches off the plate. Wow. A team that scored 100 more runs than they gave up lost the World Series to a team that scored 20 less runs than they gave up. Because baseball is a sport that doesn't make sense. The 87 Cardinals. That, I feel like that should be one of those more talked about stats. I know everyone's been talking, or at least on Cubs Twitter, has been talking about the run differential, the very small amount of hits that the Cubs have had to start the season. But hey, let's be optimistic. We could be at -20 and we could still beat the 87 Cardinals. I think that's going to be strike 3. I think Ian Happ's going to strike out right here is literally what I was about to say. I thought he was going to chase that one out of the zone just because the ump was starting to set that up, but he watched that one go right past. Man, just want to cover my eyes at one point. Cubs have had one base runner. The Cubs will be a no-hit this year. If that's one of those prop bets on whatever sports book you're going to want to use, what team will get no hit, not throw a no-hitter, get a no-hit against them, the Cubs in 2021 will be no-hit. And I wouldn't be shocked if it was twice. I would not be shocked if it was twice. Can we clip that? And then, in the top of the 9th, when we still haven't got a hit, we can play it back. We might be a little late for that clip, but you guys heard it. You guys were here. You guys heard it. If the Cubs get no hit today, you knew that I predicted it. We're going to say that I predicted it today, even though I said at some point in the season. It's one of those can't lose bets. I could be like, oh, I thought it was going to happen because they were playing so bad. That's an unrealistic thing to say. And then when it does happen, I get to be like, oh my God, of course. Did you not see it? I called it years ago. I called it. I'm going to look like a genius either way. They just ran this ad for Marquee. Can we shit on Marquee? Is that a cool thing? Can we just? Yeah, Mango Mike is a much better commentator than Taylor McGregor. Well, another thing with that is Marquee. I'm gonna say Marquee is the reason that Len Casper left. I know Len Casper is a big baseball guy. I know he's never ever hated the Sox. I know he's always kind of mentioned that he admires them in a little bit. You don't leave a job in Chicago to take another job in Chicago. And a lot of it was because Marquee came in and they forced Len and JD to wear full suits and ties in 95-degree weather. I just think that's a little ridiculous. And there's Anthony Rizzo, unassisted again. He had a quicker journey to first base. It was Brandon Woodruff. He could have crawled and beat the pitcher to first base, and he still flipped it to Alec Mills. That is Anthony Rizzo, 3-1 assisted. You know, if Baseball Reference and Pro Baseball, if they haven't been keeping that statistic, I'm doing it right now, and that's 2, and that leads the league. It's that simple. No, I want to see someone disagree with. Is anyone watching baseball right now, a different game, and also has Fancast on their phone? Because where aren't we? We're on your phone, we're on your computer, we're on your laptop, soon to be on your smart device. If anyone is watching any other game and just watched a first baseman go unassisted 3 times, feel free to argue. There's a comment section, isn't there? Feel free to argue. Yeah, I'll be able to see your guys' comments. So if you want to go ahead and argue with the fact that Anthony Rizzo has unassisted putouts, he doesn't lead the league in assisted putouts, go ahead, prove me wrong. You got to watch a lot of baseball for something like that to get you pissed, right? You got to be obsessed over the small details of baseball to get frustrated every time you watch your first baseman flip the ball to the pitcher. This game's actually moving with a little bit of pace. We're about 50 minutes in, 20-minute innings. That leaves for a 3-hour game. That's about league average. As Hayward gets that put out, these guys have approached me about an opportunity. It's a hard way to phrase it. I guess you guys need a little bit more of a backstory here. I work at Wrigley Field. I work in the stands. I serve the front office. I serve kind of the higher clientele that come to the game. The team at Fancast TV has approached me with an opportunity to come on as a guest as I'm working, as I'm in the stands, as I'm getting drink orders from such and such. They want me to be a guest on the show. We have, that's a nice line out to end the inning. We have, we're not handling it one-on-one. We have our management teams handling it. My people are in contact with their people and vice versa. And it's gonna be interesting. I go where the money is. So I'm gonna talk to my manager. I'm gonna see what they decide, and if maybe you guys will catch me in the stands. Maybe I'll even get a GoPro, and you guys can come serve these celebrities with me. And we'll see. We'll see where the evolution of Fancast TV goes. There's no way that this is going down. Fancast TV is only going up from here. It's like Wall Street bets only goes up. Literally can't go tits up. Oh man. I am pretty popular. I'm getting a bunch of texts about this stream. People are checking out Fancast TV. They know it's legit. We got. Oh man, sorry. I've had some pasta for dinner. I don't know what you guys ate, but It is good stuff. Oh, slow game so far, but what do you expect from the Cubs? All right. Anyone got DraftKings Sportsbook open? Is there a prop bet? Will the Cubs get a hit this inning? You guys saying if we're calling it even money, would you guys say that that's going to be in the negatives as a favorable thing, or is it going to be positive as in an unlikely thing? I would say Cubs to get a hit this inning plus 150, plus 200. I think it's an unlikely thing to happen this inning. Is that an dude? Now I'm on the sports book looking if we'll actually find a prop like that. Live props, inning props. All right. I know you can bet literally to the pitch. I think that's a little gross, right? I'm not trying to bet shame anyone here, but if you're betting on a pitch, if you're betting on every pitch, I think the number is 1-800-GAMBLER. Feel free to give that a call and just tell them why you think betting on every pitch is a good decision. As Wilson follows one off. Contreras is second on the team in on base plus slugging with about an 800. I bet after his first at bat, that's going to be down a little bit from 800. I like Wilson in the 2 spot. I know it's a little bit controversial. I know a lot of people say Wilson should be batting cleanup with the amount of power he has, but I think Wilson's been very, very calm and controlled at the plate. First inning, he worked a 6-pitch at bat, which was nice after Ian Happ, the leadoff hitter, only worked a 2-pitch at bat. And now we get to see Wilson lead off the 4th. I wouldn't be shocked if he made Woodruff work for an put out here. He used to have a crazy high strikeout rate. Anyone remember that? Oh, what's going on here? Wilson got hit by the pitch. They're saying it hit off his gloves and reflected. Yeah, here comes Craig. Here comes Craig Counsell. They're saying that he didn't swing. That's going to be an interesting playback. Let's see this. It's hard to break down moments like this, and that's why baseball is such an interesting game. So this ball is up and in on Wilson. He brings his hand forward like he's going to swing. Their first plate umpire says he checked his swing, so it's not going to be a strike that way. The ball hit the top of his finger, the knuckles of his finger, as he was gripping the bat. So he brought his hands in. The ball hits the top of the knuckle, and he was just awarded first base on one of those crazy. This is also going to be fun. Wilson Contreras has now been hit in 7 of the last 13 games he has played against the Milwaukee Brewers. If you guys remember at the beginning of the season, that was pretty important because it almost started a all dugout clearing fight, and he was fined $5,000 for COVID violation. They didn't say that it was because, because it was going to lead to a fight, because it's not the way baseball wants to be presented. It is because he was involved in something that broke COVID policy. And that is hit 7 times seasons by Brewer pitcher, most by any player on any team. Yeah, that's basically the statistic I was just breaking down. Maybe if Marquee Sports were to hire Fancast TV, they would actually be presentable. I just think that Fancast has a little too much integrity to be stepping down and playing in something like Marquee. Who took the opposite of my bet? Cubs base hit, Anthony Rizzo. That's going to put runners in the corner, no out. All right. And now we got our highest. Oh, that had to feel so good for Rizzo. And now we have our highest OPS. Is he also the team leader in RBIs? I know he's. I know he's hit a. No, it has to be Javi because Javi brought in 2 last night and has 3 home runs. Let me pull up clubhouse stats real fast. It could be an opportunity for Bryant to take over that. So RBIs, it's going to be Javi with 8, KB with 5. So a home run right here, and we'll tie KB for the club leader in RBIs. So, let's just do it. For the sake of argument, let's just do it. He did it yesterday over the center field fence, was responsible for 1 of the 3 runs we scored. Javi responsible for the other 2. The Cubs are 5-0 in games where Bryant, Rizzo, and Baez all homered. I'm really watching this at bat. I'm going to turn these lights on so you guys can see me a little bit better. There we go. Brightens up the room a little bit. I'm really involved in this at bat. Chris Bryant is 100% the Cubs' best hitter right now. This is a very good opportunity. Top of the 4th, no outs, runners on the corner. Bryant will hit that one pretty well. Tagging is Contreras. RBI sac fly. We'll take it. Rizzo stays at first. Contreras, who got on by one of the weirder hit by pitches, will then be brought in by Bryant. That's a quality at bat. That is a very quality at bat. I know we like the long ball in Chicago. We're a very homer dependent team, so it should feel very good how this inning has gone so far. Contreras gets on base. Rizzo moves him over. Bryant hits a sac fly. No long ball needed. Cubs playing small ball is a beautiful sight. Let's see if Jock can keep it going. That strikeout rate 100% also has to be playing a factor, right? We can't just be saying that because, the Cubs rely on the long ball that, they're a home run or die team. It's more or less the fact that we're a strikeout team. We get struck out so much that we hardly put the ball in play. It doesn't matter if it's a base hit or a homer at one point. When every time you go to the plate, you're going to strike out. Let's see if Jock Peterson can keep this at bat alive. Oh, man. Isn't it great having all the stats at your fingertips? They put a shift on Peterson here, so they got the shortstop covering just to the right behind the bag, and Jock Peterson swings and misses. Strike 2. Swing and miss from Jock Peterson. That's not uncommon with the Cubs. 32% of the time, the Cubs will swing and miss. That is literally the highest percent of swing and miss in all of MLB. Right behind us, Jock almost swung and missed at that one. It was up and in, and he barely caught a piece of it. The Tampa Bay Rays are right behind us, so hopefully the Rays just swing at everything tonight or tomorrow, whenever their next game is. Hopefully they just swing at everything, and the Cubs can hide behind that. And then after the Rays, it's the Orioles. That's great company for the Cubs, isn't it? We're talking about a very important statistic shared by the Rays, the Cubs, and the Orioles. That's the group you want to be in. That's like the cool kids lunch table. Yankees and Rangers are right behind those three clubs. So how are the Yankees doing this year? I haven't been keeping up with them. I just know their wild statistics. Yeah, we just got Mike in the chat. He's usually the broadcaster. I'm filling in today. Uh, wow, Jock Peterson is actually keeping this at bat alive. I love to see something like this. Jock Peterson, it's still 1-2. I think this is now a 6-pitch at bat from Jock Peterson. He's fouled a couple off. I would say he's not 33% swing and miss right now. I would say, one of the 6 has been. And hey, what's better than swinging and missing on strike 3? Watching it go past you. You can't lower your swing and miss statistics if you just let strike 3 happen. That's incredible. That's incredible stuff by the Cubs to try and avoid last place. They're purposely see. This is great baseball. This is why David Ross is going to win Manager of the Year. To avoid being in last place and swing and miss percentage, stop swinging. every other club in baseball will say stop missing. The Cubs will tell you to stop swinging. That's some Jonah Hill Moneyball stuff. I just saw under the Score Center that their Cubs are hiring seasonal opportunities. And that reminds me that I definitely have an email just waiting from my boss. So we're going to send it to a commercial here as Javi grounds out to short, put out at second. And we're going to send it to a commercial, and I'm going to send an email.
But there is some good news, though, too. Scientists are actively trying to understand how the water bears are able to be so resilient for a bunch of great reasons. And I'll turn here to Thomas Boothby from TED Ed. Like, if you ever see on YouTube, like TED Talks, their education platform. So he said that scientists are trying to understand how water bears stabilize their biological molecules under extreme conditions because they believe that we may be able to apply that knowledge to help us stabilize vaccines or develop stress tolerant crops to cope with climate change, which I think is super cool. Like the fact that we might be able to use the information that we gain from these animals to help protect humanity from the effects of climate change on our food sources and potentially more, to be honest with you, viruses and bacteria that could potentially and probably more than likely will affect our day-to-day life. The fact that we could use information that we gain from studying these micro animals to protect us from some of that stuff is really, really cool. He goes on to say they might also give us clues as to the environmental limits of biological life and how to protect astronauts, in addition to helping us answer the question of whether or not life can be supported on planets less hospitable than our own. I mean, come on, when has that been more relevant than right now? We have a rover on Mars right now. Elon Musk is talking about wanting to colonize Mars right now. So once again, this could be wildly helpful to understand that question of how are they able to do this. But, I go back to the point that I made earlier, which is they don't.
Hey, Fancast. How we doing? I'm Scott with Fancast, and I want to let you know about the thing that we're doing for small businesses that want to advertise with us. If you're a small business and you have a 15 to 30 second commercial that you want to advertise with us on Fancast, feel free to send that to me on Twitter, Scottio32, Or you can upload it to our website in a couple days once we have the feature working, and we will advertise for you on our Fancast for free.
Coming back right as Alec Mills gives up the hit to start the bottom of the fourth. It's not completely uncommon. Alec Mills is a nice, crafty pitcher, but when he leaves a curveball like that hanging, it's going to get hit, and it's going to get hit above the shift. We had, what was that, Brian over there on the right side of second base. Sogard pushed back into shallow right, and it's still over Sogard's head. You gotta respect people that can hit out of a shift. Even when they're on the other team, you gotta respect. The shift is one of the least enjoyable parts about nerd ball. This high statistic game. This whole, the hitter hits over here 80% of the time, and here, and his spread chart looks like this. Line out caught by Javi for the first out of the inning. You got to respect people who can just ignore those numbers and hit the ball. Obviously, they do it because most people can't just control where they hit the ball. But you got to wonder when we're going to get back into the, not when we, but when the MLB is going to make a stance on that. That's something they're testing out in the minors right now. There's a no infield outfield shift. So you cannot have 4 outfielders or 5 positioned infielders. At the end of the game when they usually bring an outfielder in to cover bunts, cover short hits, because the only play is the one at the plate, so they bring in a 5th infielder. Minor league baseball, you can no longer do that. I know how rare that is in the MLB. You probably see your team do it once a season, or the team they're playing against do it once a season. You'll see it 0 times. Rizzo unassisted. What? I mean, the ball literally, he was on the base when he received the ball, but still, he could have thrown that down to second base and went unassisted. But Anthony Rizzo must have heard Fancast television saying that this guy is the laziest Gold Glove winning first baseman in the league. A Gold Glover who very rarely covers his own bag. Don't get me wrong, when it's wow, that's nice movement by Alec Mills right there. 2 outs, runner on second. Manny Pena, who hit into the fielder's choice and then later scored as part of the Brewers' 2 runs, and the Cubs won. Pena now 0-2 in the count. Yep, they literally just showed the highlight. I was about to say Manny Pena hit into that fielder's choice because of that great play by Javi that couldn't be turned to a double play. Can't blame him though. That was a hard hit ball right up the middle. Javi's range getting it and then glove flipping it to Sogard at second is the reason that they only have 2 runs instead of what could very easily be 3. Mills just missed high. I think they were looking for a chase there. I want to see a strikeout here. Alec Mills. Man, I was hoping to say Alec Mills through 4 innings has thrown 40 pitches. That would have rolled off the tongue so nicely. But now the minimum he's going to do is 41. Here's one of those. Here we go. Outs above average. We were just talking about Javi at being statistically one of the better infielders. Since 2009, he has 33 outs above average. That leads the league. That leads the NL. Lindor in New York and Arenado in St. Louis now are 30 and 28. Ground ball to Bryant will end the inning with 41 pitches for Alec Mills. Hayward, Sogard, and Mills due up in the top of the fifth. What do you guys think about that WAR statistic? I outs above average, wins above replacement, very similar field. I think WAR. In a lot of ways, I want to be one of those people that simply goes out and say, most valuable player is determined by the most important person on the most important team, or the most important person who makes the biggest difference for their team. And if you're going to believe to that ideology, then you have to look at WAR. What is it good for? You have to look to the WAR statistic all the time. If it is said that if you replace this guy with the position average, this guy gives you X more number of wins. Wins are the most important statistic in baseball. You don't have to argue OPS. You don't have to argue ERA. Wins are the most important statistic in all of baseball. End of the day, you got to win the game. You could give up 15 runs, but if your team scores 16, you win. You could give up 0 runs, and your team still needs to score 1. End of the day, wins are important. And if there's a statistic that tells you how many more wins a guy gives your team than the average position, then that has to be the most valuable guy, right? Or is that just too simple? So talking about WAR, it's one of those very, very, you would think, the WAR statistic, you think all these baseball statistics, we're talking in the hundreds. Oh, he has an OPS of over 1,000. Sometimes the lead leaguer in WAR has a WAR of 13, a WAR of 18. I think Mike Trout has led the league since he's entered it with like a season WAR of 18. So as great as a player like Mike Trout is, he only gives his team 18 more wins than the average player at that position. Now, 18 is a lot. 18 is a lot of wins. 18 is the difference between a last place team in a division and the first place team in a division. So Mike Trout, arguably one of the better players of all time. But let's pull up MLB WAR leader. Right now it's Acuna Jr., who has a 1.2. So over the Braves' last 10 or 11 games, depending on how many they've played now, if they did not have Acuna Jr., they would have one less win because of that. 1.2, but you can't have 0.2 of a win. I think that's important. I think that's a very strong pace. I'll read the top 5 players in WAR, and you guys tell me when you recognize how important the statistic is. You got Acuna Jr., Buxton, who's actually tied, Glasnow, McCannon, Trout, J.D. Martinez, Taylor, DeGrom, Cole, Gray, Muncy, Mullins, and the list goes on. And the no-hit throwing Joe Musgrave in at tied for 13th. As Jason Hayward gets a base hit to start the 5th. You hear those names and you know how big those names are. You know that the Minnesota Twins are very dependent on their center fielder. You hear Glasnow and you know that he's one of the better pitchers in the league. He's 4th in ERA with .46. Tied for 1st in the league with 29 strikeouts. And he's 1-0. He has 2 games he's pitched. 3 games he's pitched. Yeah, he's thrown 3 games. He's thrown 19 total innings. He's given up 7 hits and 1 earned run. That's one of the better players in baseball, and the WAR reflects that statistic. All right. I'm trying to play for the Fancast TV Hall of Fame statistics. Highest WAR of all time. We got guesses? Highest WAR. We'll go by career leader, and then we'll go by season. Highest career WAR. This is retired and active. It is going to be Babe Ruth, who featured an entire season's worth, 182, so more than a season's worth, of wins above replacement. Alex Rodriguez is going to be 16th with 116 career wins above his replacement. All right. Albert Pujols, he's the highest active player in career WAR with 99.7. Albert Pujols has given the teams he has played for, the Cardinals and the Angels, 100 more wins than if it was ever an average player in that position. That's just a lovely statistic. Come on now. You can't be out there and say that that's not a very fun, important statistic. Chipper Jones is going to come in at 51. Now let's look of highest WAR in a single season. All right, single season leader. If we're going to go, we'll go active first. We'll go active players first because the top 3 of history are very, very fun. Highest active player, he's 22nd in active and retired. It's going to be Mookie Betts, who in 2018 had a WAR of 10. Number 1, you got to go back to 1923 when Babe Ruth had a WAR of 14. Number 2, Babe Ruth in 1921. Number 3, Babe Ruth in 1927. That should go to show that the great Bambino is one of the greatest players of all time. And they really just used his ball in Sandlot, and that's disgusting. That's single season highest WAR. He holds 3 of the top 3, and you're going to just use his autograph baseball like that? So that's how small of margin is. The greatest player of all time's highest WAR was only 14. Babe Ruth in 1923 offered his team 14 more wins than if they were to pull an average guy. And I keep saying average guy. I got to paint a picture of what an average guy looks like. In 2016, the player that had a 0-0 WAR, which would be your average player, was Starlin Castro. So you when you talk about, okay, well, who's the average player that you're comparing them to? It is to say 1923 Babe Ruth versus 2016 Starlin Castro. Babe Ruth's going to give you 14 more wins. Cigars, hot dogs, and I have to imagine he had to have at least one drink in the dugout here and there, right? We are talking about Babe Ruth. Man, no one is going to be able to tell you if alcohol played a factor. That's like a performance-enhancing drug. Alcohol very well could have helped Babe Ruth. That's the real scandal. Forget PEDs, alcohol. All right, we've been at this for an hour and 20 minutes, and this is only the second time in this game where the Cubs have been in a good position. We got first and second, one out, top of the order. Bodie just pinched hit for Mills. Happ is going to ground out, but he's going to hit behind Bodie here, and Hayward and Bodie are going to advance to second and third, 2 outs, bringing up Wilson Contreras. We're at that window. We're 3 times through the order now. This is when we're supposed to be getting our hits, right?
I'm not.
My Siri just went off. My Siri wants to get into the war conversation. You guys think Siri would comprehend a statistic like that? Who leads the MLB in WAR?
The Dodgers are in first place in the MLB.
Yeah, thank you, Siri. They should have really had Moneyball develop the new iPhone, the new iWatch. All right, let's look at the 2021 as Wilson watches that curveball just land right down the middle. You can't increase your swing and miss percentage if you don't swing. As he watches what should have been strike 2 get called low. 2021 WAR statistics. I want to tell you this year's average player. So a player with, I'm going to have to go to like page 30 here. You know what? Let's make fun of some people. Let's look at negative WARs first. Can we inverse? Oh man, the ESPN app is going to be way too nice. It's not going to let me inverse the WAR. You could organize by, offensive WAR and inverse offensive WAR statistics. They will not let you do that. Great. Now I'm going to have to go spend my internet data points on fan graphs. All right, total WAR. Look at the inverse. All right. As the count now is 2-2 for Wilson Contreras. I got negative WAR statistics. We're going to make fun of players that have actually costed their team a win. We're going to do that right after this at-bat. I got him right here. And I'm really focusing in on Brewers, and I'm trying to organize so it's a little bit more topical here. What Brewers player has the lowest WAR? Negative 0.3 is going to belong to Keston Hiura. For frame of reference, organized by the lowest, he is 27th lowest. And that's negative 0.3. As Wilson follows one back, 2-2. You guys think this negative WAR, the worst WAR in all of the MLB? You think in American League or National League? I know a statistic like that doesn't, it's not bias. Wilson hits one pretty well. That ball has a chance to get down, and fairly good play out in right field. That's going to end the inning. And Cubs had the opportunity. They even took out their starter, and they're not going to score. All right. Now, this guy's WAR might be negative .5, and that might be the worst in the league. But he might have the best name in the league. Blue Jays first baseman, also DHs, has made 27 plate appearances. Rowdy Tellez. Tellez. There's a Z to finish off his last name. This is the type of name that you would have for Xbox. This is a gamer tag name. Rowdy Tellez. And then, still looking at negative WAR. This is where we're going to start getting some Cubs players. Negative .3 WAR belongs to Anthony Rizzo, who's going to be 36th in the bottom. Cubs left fielder Jock Peterson is going to be at a negative .2 WAR. There's Brewers outfielder Jackie Bradley Jr. is not too far behind that. I'm trying to get to zero. I'm reading through the names on the way to zero, and every time I see a Cubs name, I'll definitely stop and say it. Brett Anderson, Brewers pitcher. I did miss Jason Hayward, who's at 52. 52 from the bottom. Jason Hayward. In between Hunter Renfroe and Evan White. Not exactly great company. And if I hear one of those, well, it's early in the season statistics, I'm gonna throw a book at someone's head. Nerd baseball needs to start being respected. Oh, they could get better. They could also get a whole lot worse. There is room to get worse. We're only looking at a negative 0.5%. That could be. All right. As we come to the middle, you got to go like 6 pages deep on Fangraphs to start pulling up players with a 0 WAR. Page 7 here. You see a fair amount of pitchers at the near 0 mark, and that's usually just your like average bullpen guys. All right, we got to page 10, and we're starting to see the zeros. It's mostly pitchers, like I anticipated it to be. With 37 plate appearances, Ramel Tapia of the Rockies has a 0 WAR. I don't believe that's the first 0 we see. Oh my God, guys, he's here. He's playing third base for the Nationals this year. Starlin Castro is again with a 0 WAR in 2021. I need Starlin Castro. Starlin Castro career WAR. Starlin Castro. I think Starlin Castro might go down in history as the most average player of all time. Starlin Castro stats. Minus -0.1 according to Baseball Reference for the 2021 season. His career WAR is 17. So since he's been playing professional baseball, he's only given whatever club he's on throughout his history. All right, let's see if I can organize this. He did win Rookie of the Year. He won MVP at 23. He was an All-Star. He was an All-Star on 4 different occasions. And he might be going down as history's most average. Advanced statistics. Don't you always hate when they make you really work around to find these types of statistics? All right, we're closing blinds in here. I didn't want it to be too loud for everyone. We just started the bottom of the fifth with a Ryan Tepera walk. Ryan Tepera is one of the pitchers with a 0 WAR. So we will be. We're gonna keep an eye on the game as we're trying to really dig into this WAR statistic. This is one of those Nick learns everything but baseball edition statistics. We're gonna really deep dive into WAR. So that's a slow roller, Bryant, who's able to turn 2. And just like that, one pitch later, there is 2 outs in the bottom of the fifth. Man, I'm trying to find Starlin Castro. So I have his entire standard batting, even some of the more advanced things. So Starlin Castro, when he was in New York for that 2017 season, he DH. So you can divide by position. It's, he played the 6, he played the 6, he played the 6, which is the shortstop position. Then in 2015 with the Cubs, that is when Addison Russell started coming up. And then you see Starlin Castro taking some reps at the 4, which is second base. And then for the 2016 season, he was in New York and he played second base the entire season. 2017, he played second base and DH'd. In Miami, he played second base. And then the next year in Miami, he started playing third base. So he's played short, converted to a second baseman, played a little bit of third base, and now the Nationals have been playing third base again this year. That is very interesting. I need his career WAR statistics and organized by season because I am positive. Here we go. I can at least pull up the last 2. So 2021, that's this season. He has the 0 or negative 0.1, depending on what site you're looking at. Season stats. All right, we got season stats WAR. His rookie year, 1.8. His MVP year, his sophomore year, 2.7. 2012, he went 3.1. And then he had a fall off in 2013, and he had the 0 year of WAR. And then he picked it up with the 3.2, which is going to be his career high. And then Javi goes 0.6, 1.3, 1.9, blah, blah, blah. 2020 and 2021, we see 0 and 0. He's had a 0 WAR 3 times. His average WAR is 0.3. That is a career average WAR. That's going to be Steamers. They're going to quote that as a 0.3 WAR. If you look over to FGDC, which I'm not familiar with how they categorize, they have them at 0.7. But a career average of a 0.3 WAR is a very interesting statistic as to wins the inning. 0.3. So each and every season, on average, not Javier Baez, he replaced Starlin Castro. Starlin Castro gives you 0.3 wins more than average. So more or less, Starlin Castro is your average. So we just had Tepera end the inning there. We're going to try and do a little bit more research on the WAR statistic, but while we do that, how about we send you guys to a commercial?
The world needs more people with curious minds. People who aren't afraid to admit when they don't know something. We need to take the time to encourage more lifelong learners. At least that's my goal with this podcast. I think the future is at stake. But at the same time, I do believe that a more informed population can and will move humanity forward. All we have to do is keep learning.
All right, we are back. We are waiting for the Cubs to pick up the sticks, both literally as they come up to bat in the sixth and metaphorically. We'll have to wait. We'll pull up the box score real fast. I want to say they have 3 hits. Yep, they have 3 hits. I was going to say 4, but I guess I was considering a walk. Maybe Rizzo and Contreras have both reached on a walk and a hit by pitch respectively. So we've had 5 base runners, and 3 of them were actually hits and 2 reached in other ways. All of that has converted into 1 run for the Cubs as they trail the Milwaukee Brewers 2-1. Alec Mills started the game. He was pitching pretty well. He gave up the 2 runs in the second, but threw a little bit more than 50 pitches after 5 innings. And then Ryan Tepera comes in and shuts down the bottom of the 5th. You might be wondering, why is a guy like Alec Mills throwing only 4 complete innings and only at like a 41 pitch count, and why isn't he brought back out for the 5th? I would say that there's probably 2 things. The lesser one was he was due up, and it presented an opportunity for David Bodie, the pinch hit. Who's to say that if he was due up in the next inning, if he was due up in this inning, if he would have finished the 5th inning? But Alec Mills is technically in the bullpen this year. Alec Mills is a relief pitcher when he should really be a starter, in my opinion. He has thrown a no-hitter against the Brewers. He got converted to the bullpen for Adbert Alzolay, who moved into a starter role this season. And that's why those 2 things are going to combine into the reason that Alec Mills is only going to pitch 4 innings. We are moving into an apartment soon, and this isn't, we really like promoting small businesses, so this isn't a great promotion, but we are looking on Facebook Marketplace. It is a great place to find great deals on slightly used furniture. I'm not going to go into everything. I'm not trying to give them a free advertisement here. We are looking at just these private sell, which is good. That's where it becomes good. I hate that we have to use Facebook to mediate it, but it is very good that local sellers, your neighbors, are able to take their stuff and get a couple bucks for it, instead of everyone having to go through, third party, big chain, reseller, and all of that stuff. So I'm obviously not going to shout out who I'm trying to buy this couch from, because that would be incredibly weird. But thank you to all people who sell on Facebook Marketplace. Any word on the couch? You guys want to participate in me purchasing a couch? So we move in the 24th. We have a 2-bedroom, but there's only going to be obviously my girlfriend and I are going to share, as Rizzo follows that one off. Share a bedroom. I know that's not the good Christian thing of us. So we have a 2nd bedroom. We're going to use it mostly as office space. I'm going to set up my sick gaming system. Can I say dude, I keep shouting out the big names. I just gave a shout out to Facebook. I'm about to give a shout out to Microsoft and Sony. I gotta start buying local. I'm gonna buy the Soldier gaming system from Soldier Boy. Uh, so we're gonna use it mostly as an office. I'm gonna play a fair amount of my video games in there. But we also are gonna have guests stay over. So we found one of those sleep-in. Rizzo hits against the shift, but hits it a little too high and caught by what's gonna be the third baseman, but a little bit of a collision here. McKinney, the left fielder, is going to slide under Uris, who has been playing shortstop since, what was his name? Orlando got traded? Yeah. Orlando Asina. I can't even pronounce names. That was... No one likes... I know watching it, it looks like, oh, he just, clipped under him. He caught his foot. It's not that big of a deal. No one likes being hit when they're not expecting to be hit. You don't have time to tense up. You don't have time to prepare for it. This guy just got sideswiped and table-topped, essentially. No one wants that to happen to them at any point. So, of course, he can have a second to recover from that. But, yeah, so we're looking for essentially what would be a couch in this guest room, the second bedroom. But we also want it to function as a bed for when people do sleep over. So we were looking at a day bed. Bryant hits one that's going to be caught out there and right. 2 outs, top of the 6th. No one on. We were looking at day beds. And I know day beds were pretty popular not too long ago. I would say late 90s, early 2000s. Well, I guess if you consider that was 2 decades ago, then it was long. But we were looking at a daybed with a trundle, and we were looking on Schmayfair. I got to stop shouting at the big brands. And all we did was it was frames. It was $300 for a daybed frame with a trundle. It wasn't actually the daybed. You had to buy the mattress separately. And it got way too expensive. We started looking marketplace, and price for price, we found a daybed with trundle and the mattresses for $300, or this sectional that has an ottoman that can get pushed in and make it into a mattress for $300. And we're really leaning towards the sectional because it folds out and all of it 84 inches. It's the size of a king size mattress. So we're hoping to do that. We're hoping to do that and a mattress topper and really, really make it into essentially a king-size bed in the guest room. And then when it's not in use, it folds up to a nice sectional couch. Rex Brothers warming up in the bullpen for the Cubs as Peterson goes behind 1-2. We have been live for 1.5 hours. We have covered a lot of topics. We've covered the slow Cubs bats. We've covered the Cubs being a better pitcher team. We've covered wild statistics, including a negative run differential team winning the World Series, 87 Twins beating the Cardinals, who had a 104 positive run differential. We are definitely looking at a lot of interesting stuff here. And the most recent thing we just talked about was the WAR statistic, which is, I'm going to argue it. It's the most important statistic in baseball. I think if it was a unified equation and various sites, there's small tweaks. They say that this statistic should be weighted slightly more than that statistic, and others will disagree. If we can get a unified approach to what WAR is and how to determine it, it should pick every MVP for every year. I will really stand by that argument. It's a hill I think I'm ready to die on. Peterson fighting off, trying to keep that swing and miss rate low. But what do you guys think? I'm going to say WAR for most important baseball statistic. What do you guys think about hitting statistics, pitching statistics? What's individual stat? They can be advanced or they can be basic. I know a lot of people as Peterson lofts one, and that would be caught in left field. 3 pop-outs for the Cubs. What statistic do you guys think is the most important? Outside of WAR, individual type of like on base plus. That would probably be mine, on base plus slugging, because it gives you an idea of both how many times they're getting on base and what they're doing when they get on base. On base plus slugging, the highest you can have is a 4,000, and a 4,000 is it's basically every time they come up to bat, they reach home, whether it's a home run over the fence or inside the park. It's worth 4 bases they're at bat. A 3 means they average a triple, so it could be a triple or a home run and a double or any sort of mathematical equation that leads to that. A 2 means they get to second every time they're up to bat, and a 1 means that they get to first. So what you're really hoping for is your OPS. You really want a 1,000, which means every time they come up to bat, one way or another, they get to first base, whether they walk, whether they get a hit. If they strike out, it means to reach that average again, they'll get a double. So 100%, it's hard to argue against on base plus as the most comprehensive batting statistic. Pitching, this is where there's a lot of arguments in the philosophy of nerd baseball. If you guys couldn't catch on, I'm a huge fan of nerd baseball. Pitching, there's a lot of different school of thoughts. There's ERA, there's WHIP, which is walks and hits and per innings pitched. It rhymes if you make it rhyme. That's a pretty good one. But I said earlier that I believe wins are the most important statistics in baseball, and that is something you can determine from a pitcher. Quality starts, those are also good, but a quality start doesn't always mean a win. Jake Arrieta had a quality start literally earlier this season and still lost the game. Quality starts are determined by 6 innings pitched with 3 or less runs. You could have a quality start and then your relief could blow it. You could have a quality start and your offense doesn't score. So to hang wins and losses on pitchers just like that is really hard, because they could give up 1 run and still receive a loss. WHIP is pretty. Well, WHIP in a lot of ways is the opposite of OPS. WHIP is walks and hits per innings pitched, which means whether they walk someone or whether they give up a base hit, it is calculated into that. And I believe for the base hits, it's still based on a 4 base value. Has kept the statistic says how well. Yeah, I know what WHIP is. I'm looking for the leaders in WHIP. Don't you love using Google? WHIP stat baseball 2021. We'll pull up this season. I know it's a short season so far, but we'll give you an idea of. ERA is going to be the first thing pulled up. Yeah, because people still love traditional statistics, and you can't blame them for that. It's the easiest to understand. Earned run average. For every 9 innings they pitch, they give up this many runs. You can't even blame them for complete games, all that type of stuff. But when we look at WHIP, which is the second to last statistic that MLB website will give you, good play over there up the middle to get that out. 4 pitch, 1 out for Brothers to start the bottom of the 6th. You actually have to look at. No, it's still under standard. All right, looking at whip, 0.16 is going to be Corbin Burns. He's going to lead the league in whip. That means every inning that Corbin Burns pitches, he allows 0.16 base runners. So it would take 10 innings of him pitching at this rate to give up a single base runner. That is very good. In 10 innings, Corbin Burns will give up 1.6 base runners. To put that in actuality, he's pitched 12 innings and has allowed 2 base runners. He has 20 strikeouts. His ERA is 0.73. He's played 2 games. Would you guys believe me if I told you he didn't have a win? I was just talking about how wins don't determine everything. He's 0-1. He actually has a loss under his belt. He's the MLB leader in one of the most important pitching statistics, and he has yet to win a baseball game. I think you got to respect stuff like that. I really do. 21. Who was number 2? It's going to be Joe Musgrave, the no-hit pitcher from the Padres. He is 2-0. He has a perfect ERA of 0. He has pitched 15 innings, and he has 18 strikeouts. And his whip is going to be 0.2. That means for every 10 innings he pitches, he gives up 2 full base runners. So in 15 innings, that means he's given up 3 base runners. Whether he walked them, whether he gave up a hit, which in one of his games he didn't do that, that should tell you who's having a good season. After that, we go Weaver, Glasnow, Miley, Stroman. I'm trying to find like the outlier, but it's hard to find the outlier because all these pitchers are very good pitchers, and all of them have crazy low WARs or whips. So I think that should be all you really need to know. You look at a low whip, you're looking at a good pitcher. There's no real outliers. There's no one who can cheat the system and have one good game and lower that statistic. You can't have a pitcher who's throwing quality start after quality start. Whip is very impressive. The Cubs leader in whip, that's going to be Jake Arrieta with a 1.42. We're playing musical cars. Don't you love when that happens when you have 3 cars in a 2-car garage and one on the driveway and you got to figure out who should park behind who? No matter how you do it, someone's always wrong. It's crazy. I have not had a single day where the people are just like, oh, I don't need to move my car. The car's all set. A foul ball, 2 outs, 2 strikes, 2 balls, bottom of the 6th. We've talked about WAR. We've talked about on base plus. We've talked about whip. Complete games. Has anyone? No Cubs pitcher has qualified for a complete game. There's 2 players in the MLB, 2 pitchers in the MLB who have completed a complete game. Obviously, one of them was a no-hitter thrown by Joe Musgrave. Can anyone tell me who the other person is? He's had 2 starts. He's only thrown a total of 13 innings, which means one start was 9 innings. The other one The other start, he only got through 4 2/3, 17 strikeouts, .9 of a whip. It is going to be the right-handed Lance Lynn of the Chicago White Sox. Originally drafted in '08 by the Cardinals. Has been a little bit of a journeyman, I would say. I'm waiting for Brothers to finish his inning. And he will get a ground out to Sogard, who's playing wide to the right, almost where a traditional first baseman would play, backed up into the outfield, and gets that ground ball to him. Are we going to talk about the shift? I don't want to talk about the shift. I like this. I like some aspects of the shift. I hate other aspects of the shift. We've talked about it in the minor leagues. We're going to see how it works there. We're going to see how a universal DH. Anyone want to guess the most recent rule that was tested in the minors and now has come to the MLB? It wasn't. I think we got someone that said replay. That's a fairly new one. That's what, last 3 years we've had the replay. That does come from the minor leagues. That was originally tested there. The most recent rule, though, that was tested in the minors and implemented in the majors was the extra inning runner on second policy. It was originally after 12 innings. Last year was, if the game went 12 innings, the 12th inning started with runners on second. Now, the 10th inning starts with a runner on second base. We got a chance here to send it to commercials, and I'm running out of boring statistics to talk about. So I'm going to go find even more boring statistics. You guys might want to stick around because I'm probably going to pull out another Fancast TV Hall of Fame statistic. But until then, we're going to send it to commercial here.
But there is some good news, though, too. Scientists are actively trying to understand how the water bears are able to be so resilient for a bunch of great reasons. And I'll turn here to Thomas Boothby from TED Ed. Like, if you ever see on YouTube, like TED Talks, their education platform. So he said that scientists are trying to understand how water bears stabilize their biological molecules under extreme conditions because they believe that we may be able to apply that knowledge to help us stabilize vaccines or develop stress tolerant crops to cope with climate change, which I think is super cool. Like the fact that we might be able to use the information that we gain from these animals to help protect humanity from the effects of climate change on our food sources and potentially more, to be honest with you, viruses and bacteria that could potentially and probably more than likely will affect our day-to-day life. The fact that we could use information that we gain from studying these micro animals to protect us from some of that stuff is really, really cool. He goes on to say they might also give us clues as to the environmental limits of biological life and how to protect astronauts, in addition to helping us answer the question of whether or not life can be supported on planets less hospitable than our own. I mean, come on, when has that been more relevant than right now? We have a rover on Mars right now. Elon Musk is talking about wanting to colonize Mars right now. So once again, this could be wildly helpful to understand that question of how are they able to do this. But, I go back to the point that I made earlier, which is they don't know the answer to that yet, though.
We are back here on Fancast TV. Top of the seventh. We just watched Javier Baez ground out, and now we are 0-2 on Jason Hayward. Milwaukee brought in a new pitcher, and you guys know how I'm great with last names, so let's try this one. Boxberger. When you go to McDonald's, you can get the burger wrapped, or if you order the quarter pounder, you'll get a box burger. Come on, that's pretty funny. I haven't said a lot of funny things. I haven't said a lot of funny things this entire podcast as Hayward. Hayward, they're gonna say he got that one. They're gonna say he tipped that one into the dirt, and he's gonna keep this at bat. I 100% thought it was gonna be another 33% swing and miss here, but the home plate umpire is saying he tipped it. Craig Counsell's coming out and saying, is that reviewable? That no way he tipped it? Let's watch the replay here. Yeah, Jason Hayward probably didn't get any of that baseball. Oh, maybe. From that side angle, you kind of see it tilt downwards. What is great about Fancast TV is Hayward swings and misses and strikes out. It truly is fan-centric. It would be great once the big time comes in, we could watch the game together instead of me watching it on my 36-inch screen and looking up and then having to look back at you guys. Once we get broadcasting rights, which, will happen soon, they'll hear about us. They'll know what's what. Once that happens, we will be able to have fans broadcast the game. And I think that's going to be an important stepping stone in the evolution of how we enjoy sports. I am tired of hearing Joe Buck talk about any Chicago team, whether it's the Bears, whether it's the Cubs. I can't stand Joe Buck. When the game is on Fox, I am forced to listen to Joe Buck. I cannot wait for the day where I can go to Fancast TV, watch the game live, and hear actual fans talk about the team they love. That is 100% going to be the most simplistic, enjoyable way. Sure, you're not going to get your iconic voices. You're not going to get Vin Scully. You're not going to get Len Casper. But it's going to be so important as that ends the inning as Sogard grounds out. It's going to be so important for to actually watch the game. You're going to get so many unique voices. Sure, some of them might not be the most perfect voice. Sure, you might not get another legendary commentator, but you're going to get real people talking about real sports in a real way. And that is going to be the best way to do it. The centric is on small businesses, small voices, small businesses. And it's going to be just the best way to do it. It truly is, through and through, where entertainment's going to go. And I am really excited to have gotten the chance to call this Cubs game. I know we got the bottom of the seventh, all of the eighth, and all of the ninth. Well, probably not all of the ninth, the way this game is gone. But at the stretch, it is important to just take notes of how fun this has been for me. I had all day to figure this out. I ended up getting a car, ended up hating the car I got, ended up returning the car I got, ended up getting a new car. I bought 2 cars today. I bought 2 cars today. And I still decided to come back and want to do this Fancast TV. My throats are getting dry. That's how much I'm talking because of how much I enjoy it. My iPad is set up on a foam roller in my bedroom. I'm currently sitting on the floor and have been for the past 2 hours because I wanted to talk baseball in a real way. I know you guys are used to Mike calling the Cubs games, and he's a really good voice, and he's no doubt who you want to hear from most Cubs games. But I have had a lot of fun doing this one. As we come back to the bottom of the seventh, the Cubs are beating out the Brewers in hits. Can we just cover up where it says runs and just look at hits? Because very rarely will the Cubs be winning in that statistic. We bring in Pedro Strop. He has 120 holds, which is the franchise record, and that's the one that they're going to highlight. I think that's a pretty good statistic to look at. Holds the most important relief statistic? You get in the game and nothing changes. Isn't that what you want out of every relief pitcher? Whether you inherit a mess or whether you come in at the start of an inning, if you leave the inning exactly the way you came into it, is that not exactly what you want? I guess you could say that about starters. Don't you want a starter to start the first inning and end the first inning with no damage? Pedro Strop, Cub in 20, part of the World Series Cubs team, gets that ground ball to Javi, who throws out to Rizzo, 1 out, 2 pitches, 1 out. Strop was always a good clubhouse guy, always a good guy to hang out with. And then spent a year away. I'm trying to think, what team did Pedro Strop go to in 2019? 2020, he was a free agent. Cubs got him on a minor league deal. Came up as part of the 40-man. I think pitched 2 innings, or 2 games rather, with the Cubs. And now he has found his way as part of a couple recent roster moves onto the Cubs major league roster. He is in the bullpen. I think this is the first time I've seen him. Sogard into the shift. Not going to get that play at first. I think this is the first time I've seen Strop in 2021. Gives up a base hit. Sogard was over in the shift. Cubs just shifted on back-to-back hitters. They had Javier to the right of the bag. Sogard in deep right center, or in shallow right center. Didn't matter too much. It was a good play, good style. But throw was off. Jackie Bradley Jr. is very fast, even if he is a negative WAR player. But who am I to judge? So is Anthony Rizzo. Strop looks back at Bradley. Anthony Rizzo did get a stolen base today. That is an important thing to remember. And now we are going to look back at Jackie Bradley Jr. again. Stolen bases, who leads the league? 8 stolen bases has already occurred for Ramon Lorano, the center fielder for the A's. 300 average with 8 stolen bases. That's very impressive. Get him on, get him over, get him in. That's the type of guy you want on your team. Javi Baez is tied for third with about 6 other people here. Tied for third with 3. It's very fun that I can scroll down and find out that Anthony Rizzo is tied for 35th with 1 stolen base. There are a fair amount of people who have 0. Wow, Pedro Strop is really worried about Jackie Bradley Jr. over there. Let's look at if he has a reason to be scared. Jackie Bradley Jr. has yet to steal a base this season. Christian Yelich leads the Brewers in stolen bases with 2. Lorenzo Cain has 1. Colton Wong who had that very. I've always been a Colton Wong fan, even when he was playing with the Cardinals. He came back to Busch Stadium not too long ago and received a round of applause, and that's one of the things that makes baseball a very special game. Man. Yelich is batting .333, but does not have a home run. I remember there was a time that was like, Yelich won MVP, right? I gotta. Did he? Yeah, he won it with the Marlins in 2016. I thought so. Damn. Pedro Strop looking back at Jackie Bradley Jr. At one point, you got to just pitch to the guy. I know you want to keep the double play intact. I know you don't want to give a runner a free base. But if you're not actually pitching to the guy, you're not going to get a second out. Ground ball, Bryant, he is going to be forced to go to first with that. 2 outs, runner on second. I think if that ball was hit a little bit harder, I think it still would have gone the way it did. Bryant fielded it on the front of the grass. I just think Jackie Bradley Jr. had obviously a good secondary, and he's a quick guy, so there was no play at second to begin with. Luis Urias has both of the runs scored. He had a 2-run home run in the second. We're going to see how this inning goes, and this might be a all right. We are going to see how this inning finishes up, and then I think we will be signing off from Fancast for the night. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Appreciate everyone listening to me rant about nerd statistics. I hope you guys learned something, because baseball is becoming a very, very numbers-based game. I wouldn't be shocked. I know fantasy football is 100% the most popular fantasy. You can't blame them. Everyone plays either on Thursday, Sunday, or Monday. It's very easy to keep track of lineups. Baseball, the schedules are so weird. Some weeks you do this, some weeks you do that. We got to look into a daily fantasy sponsor. I think that Prize Pool is a very good one. You guys should definitely check out Prize Pool. It's essentially player prop parlays. I know traditionally FanDuel, DraftKings, those daily fantasy lineups are fun. Prize Pool, you just simply, it will say so-and-so over 1.5 hits. Will so-and-so hit a home run? And you could line up 2 or 3 players together, and you can get 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, or 10 times your money, depending on how big you build the parlay. And I would bet that we could 100% get a Fancast promo code in there. No doubt about it in my mind. We got a full count, 2 outs, bottom of the 7th. Pedro Strop hits it on 14 pitches. Pitch number 15 is going to be low, and it'll put a runner on first and second. Surprised we are getting down to the bottom of the order here from Milwaukee. I'm wondering how many spots we are away from Boxberger coming up to bat. Rowdy Tells. I don't even know Boxberger's first name. Boxberger's on deck. I would not be surprised if he was pinch hit for if it was his bet. So was Brad Boxberger, and they got Vogelbach on deck. So I figured as much. If Brad Boxberger, I'm not a Brewers fan, but I might have to get one of those powdered blue Brewers jerseys with Boxberger on the back. Same thing with MLB's worst player, Rowdy Tells. No, Rowdy Tells with the negative 0.5 WAR. Starlin Castro is this year's most average. I want Starlin Castro to go down. I hate to say it because I like Castro as a Cub. If he has like a negative WAR this year and it brings his season average from 0.3 to pure 0, Starlin Castro, the most average player in MLB history. Rowdy Tells. All right, let's look up. He is a first baseman for the Blue Jays. Did the Blue Jays have cool uniforms? They have those powdered. I won't say powdered. I would say like light blue. Tells. Tellez. Where are the Blue Jays playing this year? Aren't they playing in like Florida or Connecticut or some weird? I know they're not in Toronto because of COVID again. They were in Buffalo last year, weren't they? Strike 3, Pedro Strop gets out of the inning and will bring up 121 holds, which will set a franchise record. He's due up in the top of the 8th, expected to get pinch hit for. And I think that is where we are going to call it from Fancast TV. We appreciate everyone coming out. We appreciate all our viewers. And we wish everyone a good night and hope